I want to see his reaction to the Iran deal.
Anyway, let's get to the latest Iran deal. Trump is saying it's been largely negotiated. I told you, once the ink is dried and the troops have pulled out, I'll believe it. Until the last moment, I will not believe it.
Same here. I don't think Trump can agree to this.
But there are some signs that we're moving in the appropriate direction. Now, the reason why I say that is because the pro-Israel side, the Israel firsters in America, and obviously the Zionists in Israel are crying.
Exactly. One good thing that could come out of this, if this deal is, if it's what it looks like and terrible for Israel, is that people will stop calling Trump Israel's puppet, because this deal will be so terrible for Israel.
They're crying up and down the timeline.
And correspondent Jonathan Karl will be hosting This Week later this morning. John, good morning to you. Great to see you. So President Trump says a deal with Iran has been largely negotiated. Still no official response from Tehran. Well, what are your sources telling you about how close a deal could be and what's actually included?
Well, it's not the
They backtracked already? Oh, God. Israel came in again, I guess.
first time that the president has said we're close to a deal. He said it over and over again and it hasn't come to fruition. But this does seem to be a
typical Hassan, getting up and leaving the video running.
Genuine inflection point. My sources in the region say that a deal is very close. The only question is whether or not the Iranians sign on.
He's wearing a suit and... Sorry, I'm hiding him a little bit. He's wearing a suit and jacket these days, Hassan. That's interesting. Trying to be more serious as a comment.
The president did a call with our allies in the region.
The call with
What is Hassan doing? You should at least sit at your chair. Why are you sitting at your couch?
very positive. Good.
You will be on every detail. Thank you so much for the updates.
What is Hassan doing?
Be sure to like
Making
and
himself a
subscribe for
drink.
all the Fox News latest on YouTube and
Details of the deal will be open, that both sides had to take their time to get it right. If day period.
Israel has a right to bomb Lebanon. Yeah, I'm drinking my Metamucil. Even my biggest haters are defending me. Okay, good. At least some. This actually shows like the varying depths of madness on Twitter. I mean, this guy despises me. He's literally written extensively about how much I cape for communism and whatnot. At least he still also maintains the level of intelligence not to come across like a psycho. Oh.
Hassan with a shirt and tie.
Yeah, it seems like it seems like Israel. This is why I said there was, look, this is why I said this deal was promising, mostly because the reason why I said Israel is, this is promising is because Israel was chirping quite a bit, okay? Israel was chirping quite a bit, and that Israel only chirps when America is actually nearing a deal, like when they're actually close to close.
Like that terrorism in Pakistan we heard about earlier.
And it's so, and that's such a, like, that is such a significant problem that the Iranian envoys.
Okay, your Riz has just gone down enormously by putting that cap on.
Openly communicated yesterday by their state, by their state news media, Fars News, that America and Israel actually found a decent arrangement. However, Israel is trying to spoil it. They openly stated that, right? Trump asked Middle East leaders to sign a peace deal with Israel after the Iran war ends, okay? U.S. demands capitulation. Iran's not agreeing. No, I think you're wrong. I think Iran got what it was looking for out of this deal, which meant capitulation from the American side, and then Israel came in and said, you can't do this.
Yeah.
So if this deal falls apart, it is absolutely because of Israel. It is not Lebanon that is emerging as a weak link in the memorandum, but
I think Hassan's brain itself and his controversial capabilities are greatly limited by his audience intellect. Yes, his audience is fanatic, and it does limit what he can say because he might get attacked by his own audience. So that is definitely a part of it. But, you know, you cultivate your own audience. If he has this audience, it's because he's weaponized this audience to go after streamers and, you know, commentators he doesn't like. And he's cultivated this audience. So that's on him. That's what I mean about unwise decisions he's made.
but rather Israel. Once again, Israel refused to be bound by any regional ceasefire and wants to include clauses that allows it to turn the ceasefire into Swiss cheese, just as it has in Gaza and in Lebanon before. It wants to render the ceasefire void of any meaning. So far, the Iranians are standing firm.
I mean, calling every single streamer that he disagrees with a pedophile, and I mean, not just like throwing out the accusation, but seriously telling his audience that Asmongold is a pedophile, Nux is a pedophile, Tectone is a pedophile. Yeah, it's not serious.
Not just because it needs to defend its standing amongst the Axis and not appear as having betrayed them, but also because the entire agreement won't be worth the paper it's written on if Trump, even before the agreement comes into effect, starts to cave to Israeli pressure. No U.S.-Iran agreement will be useful if the United States cannot reign in Israel. This will be a test for Trump, America first or Israel first. If you recall, for the last 86 days, what have I said? After the second week, when Iran came out with their 10-point plan for a long-standing ceasefire, I told you, I weighed the priorities here, and I weighed the most difficult elements of this deal. And the least concession that Iran would give to the Americans, if you recall, was restrict.
No, it's its demand for reparations. That's the first thing it would give up.
Restricting their enrichment capabilities. This is not, regardless of the American side's maximalist demands on this issue,
That would be the second one.
this wasn't that consequential because they had already conceded on it. And the only reason why the nuclear grade enriched uranium even exists in Iran was simply so they can have leverage to get sanctions relief down the line. And that's what happened with the JCPOA. That's clearly what they wanted to do. They said yes to that, even to the maximalist demands that the American side was making before Operation Epic Fury was launched through perfidy 86 days ago. Okay. And I told you that the highest priority, or the most difficult
Perfidy. That's the war crime of attacking under white flag, under negotiations.
to achieve concession from the American side would be Lebanon. And I told you it wasn't about Lebanon at all. And I've had conversations with Trita Parsi on this broadcast as well. It's not that Iran truly loves Hezbollah or sees them as Shia brothers or because they think that this is a war for survival or anything like that. I mean, I'm sure that's part of the motivation, right? But the reason why Iran wanted Lebanon to be a part of this deal was because that would mean America would have to forcibly restrain Israel because Iran demanded it. And if a deal was reached of this sort, which I still think it will, it would be a major strategic defeat for Israel. As Trita also agrees, here's his analysis. I address Trump's pending.
It needs to do that because Hezbollah only opened a second front against Israel to support Iran and to our allies. If Iran doesn't demand a ceasefire in Lebanon, that would be a betrayal of its ally, Hezbollah.
Deal with Iran and the meltdown of the warmongers in this piece. But while Israel supporters openly attack Trump, Israeli officials may keep a lower profile given Israel's elections and Trump's ability to hurt them politically in Israel. But make no mistake, if a deal is reached, it will be a major strategic defeat for Israel. And Israel knows this. That's why they're chirping. That's why its Hasbara agents are chirping. That's why its biggest defenders in America were losing their minds last night. Because this would mean that Iran was capable of forcing America to restrain Israel. Something that America has not done since October 7th. It's that simple. Israel's two wars have paradoxically strengthened Iran's deterrence posture, exposed Israel's inability to confront Iran without overwhelming American military backing, and inflicted incalculable damage on America's global standing and aura of military supremacy. At the same time, support for Israel within the United States has eroded dramatically across nearly every demographic group except older Republican voters. Most importantly, sanctions relief would liberate Iran's economy from decades of constriction and gradually shift the regional balance of power away from Israel and its vision of a greater Israel. For precisely that reason, Israel will almost certainly do everything within its power behind the scenes to sabotage the agreement before it becomes irreversible. Okay. Oh, thank you, Foundation for Defending Democracy, says Harrison Berger from American Conservative Magazine. Iran war could add billions of dollars in interest payments to U.S. debt. Government borrowing costs have reached their highest level since 2007 after 3 months of the conflict. Yeah. This.
Yep. It's not, all bad for the United States.
Iteration. This last conflict is entirely because of Israel. Okay. Straight up. Anyone that doesn't recognize that is either a fool or lying to you. Okay.
Yes, Israel's the one. Netanyahu tricked Trump into this war, into convincing him it was a 3-day war. Yes, it happened for Israel. But it also attacking, getting rid of Iran, dollarizing Iran. Yeah. There is... Israel is an agent of the... Oh, thank you for the follow, Modzan. Israel was behind this war, but Israel is an agent of the U.S. deep state, and it does help U.S. power projection in the Middle East. Like taking out Syria, Israel definitely wanted that, but the United States wanted that too. There was a reason U.S. troops were guarding Syria's oil supplies for a while. We were after their oil, just like we're after Iran's oil. If they did get regime change in Iran, I guarantee it's U.S. oil companies that would go in and make billions, if not trillions, from the oil fields. So there is definitely a part of the U.S. deep state that wants this war with Iran too. But it was Netanyahu who basically tricked Trump, so Israel should get most of the blame.
Okay, hold on. Ali Hashem reporting on the major holdups. Oh yeah, here. Ali Hashem from Al Jazeera English says, less than 24 hours after optimism emerged around a possible Iran-U.S. memorandum, negative vibes are already surfacing. A well-informed Iranian source tells me there are signs of U.S. retreat on two central issues, the mechanism for unfreezing Iranian assets and the scope of a ceasefire in Lebanon. I think even unfreezing Iranian assets is more doable than restraining Israel.
Yes, but it's still costly for Trump. Trump attacked Obama endlessly for giving Iran money, and when by that he means that Obama unfroze some Iranian assets. And so if he has attacked Obama all for so long over that, it's politically costly for him to do the same thing.
Maybe I'm wrong, but if you recall, I said that unfreezing Iranian assets would be a tough concession for America to eat. But the most difficult one would be to restrain Israel. Do you think Trump will reign in Israel? I think he has to. I just don't know if he is capable.
I've said that I don't think he can, not yet. I think that the rest of the world needs to come together and pressure Trump into basically agreeing to a deal with Iran and pressuring Israel into getting out of Lebanon. And I don't think that Trump alone, it'd be too politically costly for him to agree to this unless he's forced to. And so we need another 2-3 months of economic pain, Strait of Hormuz being closed, for the rest of the world to get together and organize themselves.
Capable of
and force him to do what's necessary.
Doing this for one reason or another. Can you clarify? Israel doesn't control the U.S. It's the other way around. They're the U.S.'s greatest vassal state. No. For one reason or another, we have now let Israel take complete control over our foreign policy initiatives in the Middle Eastern region. That's it. I'm sorry, but it's not.
I think that Netanyahu tricked Trump into this war. He would have never done the war if he understood how bad it would be for it politically. But after the war started, Trump is then trapped into being Netanyahu's ally because he needs to pretend the war is won. And if the United States won this war, how can he complain about Netanyahu tricking him into it? It doesn't make sense. So as long as that he's still trying to spin the narrative of victory, he can't go after Netanyahu publicly for anything.
Like, this is, it's ridiculous to not recognize that. I'm Mr. Israel is the unsinkable aircraft carrier. Obviously, America controls Israel. Israel is America's attack dog. But this last iteration with the Trump administration has been different. It's different. Trump 1 was different too, but this is very different. Okay? Trump 1 was a significant shift. Trump 1 represented a significant shift where we went from allowing Israel to play a very important advisory role in our Middle Eastern endeavors to one that basically started driving the vehicle of our...
Trump gave in to a lot of the Israeli demands in his first term. I think he did that because he didn't see he got lots of money, campaign money from Jewish AIPAC and Jewish lobby, and moving the U.S. embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem. Most Americans won't even know about that. It's politically costless to him. So do Israel favors like that, and he can get millions of their money, is what he thought. This Iran war was what he thought would be more of that. Another Venezuela moment. Okay, I bomb Iran for a few days, we get regime change, Netanyahu's happy, I fulfilled my end of the bargain for all the millions I've received from Jewish donors, and then I go about my business and go move on to something else. And then the Strait of Hormuz is closed, Iran doesn't collapse, and he's fucked. But yeah, ignorance, stupidity, whatever you want to call it, he didn't understand what bombing Iran's supreme leader would unleash.
Or, imperialism in the Middle East. We moved the embassy to Jerusalem. The Abraham Accords were kickstarted. All this stuff. That was new. That was unique. And then Biden came in. And Biden was also an ultra-Zionist. And Biden never reversed any of the Trump decisions on Israel. Not even a little bit. And then October 7 happened, and we saw the depravity, the immorality of the Biden administration on this issue.
You see, Biden didn't do anything against Israel and completely supported everything Israel was doing in Gaza. And see who that is behind him? Kamala Harris, who was 100% on board with everything too. Yes, it's terrible that Trump launched this Iran war, but you can't convince me that this person here, who never said no to Israel, wouldn't have done the exact same thing.
Bear hug strategy. Many people criticized it, but Biden stayed the course. Fake red lines were issued over and over again. Israel violated them. Israel humiliated the Democrats, and the Democrats were seemingly nowhere to be found. They never restrained. Did they have the power to restrain Israel? Of course they did. Of course they did. They always do. They still do to this day. It's still a one phone call style situation. Then Trump 2 happened.
Agreed.
And Trump, especially in the second term, is even weaker and therefore more compromised than ever before. And the proof here is exactly what has taken place in the last 86 days. You think Benjamin Netanyahu didn't always want to invade Iran? Of course he did.
Yeah, of course he did.
Numerous former presidents came out and said the same.
But Syria first. They went after Libya, Somalia, all these other countries, but the project before Iran, of course, was Iraq, then Syria, then Iran. So yes, Netanyahu has wanted to attack Iran for forever, but there were priorities before that: Iraq and Syria. Getting rid of Syrians Assad was a higher priority than Iran, and that only happened. Okay, when did Syria collapse? Let me get the exact dates. This is actually interesting. Syria collapse on December 2024. And so this lines up perfectly. Israel was focused on Syria. Then when Syria fell, less than 6 months later, there's the 12-day war where Israel attacks Iran. And then this year, there's the bigger Iran war. This Iran war was on hold until Syria was taken care of, until Iraq was taken care of. It was dominoes, one at a time. So yes, the reason why Iran wasn't attacked under Biden is because Syria hadn't collapsed yet. Once Syria collapsed, Iran was on the table, and all Israel's attention moved to Iran. It wouldn't have mattered who was president, Trump or Kamala Harris. We would have gone after Iran because it's one after another: Iraq, Syria, then Iran. Yes, Kamala Harris would have. I think it would have been worse than Trump. Same Iran war, then a lot of other things that would have been terrible.
Blast off.
No, wrong one. Where is...
Hitler said the same. Okay? This was always a goal for Israel. This was always the final goal for Israel. They've always wanted to destroy Iran. And yet no American president prior to Trump 2 specifically, had ever taken that leap.
And I just explained why. Syria first, Iraq first, before that. Israel isn't interested in taking out Iran when it still has Assad right here on its border. Syria has to fall first. It's not an accident that after, basically at the end of 2024, Syria falls, and then there's a 12-day war between Israel and Iran. It's because that final domino, it was the correct scenario to go after Iran.
Part of the reason why they didn't take that leap is because they knew that what's happening currently was a very realistic scenario. Okay? Obama said as such, straight up. If you don't want to take my word for it, take Obama's word for it.
Oh, yeah, that was all concerns about Strait of Hormuz and everything. But another reason was there were other targets that were higher priority.
For it, if you trust him more than me, he literally said it. We've always had advisors and minders and people who are perhaps a little too invested in Israeli foreign policy, maybe more so than American foreign policy, deeply embedded in the blob. Okay? And America's goals in the region have almost always been in cooperation with Israel's goals in the region, right? They've never really truly been at odds with one another.
Yes, Syria has an ISIS as president. And I can't tell you, I'm still thinking that a lot of people have grudges against Israel for various things. Me, it's the genocide of Christians in Syria. That it was CIA and Mossad and Western intelligence agency, but of course Israel played a major role in that since Syria's on its border. And yeah, that was worse than anything happening in Gaza, the genocide of Christians in Syria. It's 1 million Christians, poof, gone.
Or even if Israel actually bites off more than it can chew, it's not that big of a problem for America. America can solve it, right? Because we're the big bad military machine. We can come in here and we can fix it. But there are certain red lines that no American leadership prior to Trump 2 had ever taken. And that red line was invading Iran militarily or attacking Iran in the way that we did in cooperation with Israel. This created a divergence of interests, a significant one that everyone around the world could see. It's a very important distinction, which is why I say this is different. Israel absolutely controls the American foreign policy vehicle as it stands currently. Israel controls the neocon establishment, but Trump isn't completely beholden to the neocons. He's just in bed with them and has taken a lot of Israeli money. But he was tricked into this war. We know that from the leaked footage, from a whole bunch of things. And being tricked in something is different than being controlled. So
ultimately, it doesn't matter even if he was tricked or if he was under control. It's still a disaster for the United States. But it does matter in that striking a deal that's against Israel's interest is a lot more possible if Trump isn't, quote unquote, controlled.
The reason why we are bleeding the rest of the world right now. Israel's the reason why we are bleeding here in the United States of America with unprecedented inflationary crises, with gas prices skyrocketing for everyday Americans, and all of the other things that we purchase that we get from the Asian markets that are screaming bloody murder because of the energy crisis that they're experiencing. Again, because the Strait of Hormuz is blocked. Why is the Strait of Hormuz blocked? Well, because we attacked Iran. Interests are currently at odds. Israel has, and I've said this from the start, a very different set of goals with Iran than the United States of America has. Does the United States...
All to later justify a crusade against Muslims. Yeah, it... And the immigration into Europe isn't helping with that. It's just when you have tons of people from third world countries that have different values coming in, they happen to be Muslim, it's going to turn a lot of people against Muslims because people don't want mosques all over Europe, in Europe to become a Muslim area. It'd be completely erasing European history. And yeah, it's...
States of America like the idea of a destabilized Iran? Absolutely. But as the hegemon...
yeah, you're right on the Mediterranean. I can understand that. Yeah, it's got to be bad. The EU, I think, gets fucked over Europe so much in terms of immigration. And you know that's why Brussels wants this immigration. How do you unify all these different countries that speak different languages? You flood them with migrants from the third world that don't speak the local language. So now you have this, across every country, the goal is to create just this mash of people that speak Arabic or other language. And that's how they create a super European Union. It's like the United States. That's the goal. I don't think it's going to work, but that's what they want.
The U.S. has a very different level of international responsibilities, one of which is to ensure that trade continues, to ensure that this delicate system of global capital that we have designed...
No, the worst, I think, is the whole identity politics that they pushed here in America first, and then that spread to Europe. I mean, in America, systematic racism, they can make that argument because you have a huge black population and there was slavery before, and there is elements at one time that did exist of systematic racism. There were efforts to disenfranchise black voters, for example. So at least there is some basis to it. But in Europe, there was no slavery. There's no huge black population. There was no systematic discrimination against black because there were no blacks. So having identity politics in Europe and making people of Europe feel guilty for being white, it's insane. And that's being taught in UK schools and other places.
Is unimpeded. And if you can't militarily defeat Iran, as we have seen, we can't militarily defeat Iran, you have to negotiate with Iran. And I think America recognizes that. Plenty in the intelligence community recognize that.
Yep.
Neocons recognize that. That's why Robert Kagan is screaming bloody murder. I mean, these are people who have spent their entire lives demanding that we attack Iran at the behest of Israel or at the behest of American interests, to attack Iran and to defeat Iran and to destroy Iran. So why are they all now saying, you got to stop? You have to stop. We are bleeding far too much.
It's because when they were saying we have to attack Iran 20, 30 years ago, at that point, the U.S. military was an entirely different beast, and Iran was an entirely different beast. If you attack Iran, if instead of Iraq, we had decided to attack Iran, and we had mobilized everything against Iran instead, it would have been a much harder battle than Iraq, but we could have taken out Iran at that time. Iran, since then, has 20 years developed its missile cities, its long-range ballistic missiles. It didn't have a lot of the stuff it has today. And we were much stronger back then. We had 5 aircraft carriers in the region when we attacked Iraq. We had 300,000 troops ready to go in on the ground. Something like that. And there weren't no drones back then. There wasn't the era of drone warfare that slows everything down. 20, 30 years ago, United States, we could have taken out Iran. It probably would have taken like 400, 500,000 troops, more than Iraq, because of just the geography of Iran. It would have been a longer, harder war, but we could have done it. So, but as time has gone down, the situation has just changed. Iran has gotten stronger and stronger. Drones have become a thing, FPV drones, and then the Shahad drones that Iran makes. And the U.S. military has become, it's been weakened. We have less ships than we used to have. We don't have 300,000 troops to put in on the ground right now, even if we wanted to. We'd have to recruit new troops or do a draft. So we attacked Iran when we no longer had the strength to win. And we attacked from a position of weakness. We just bombed the supreme leader, and we had nothing ready to go in on the ground, no contingency plans. No, we went into this with like a month or two of preparation, whereas we prepared for like over a year for Iraq.
It's because it's true. Iran defeated us. Iran defeated the United States of America. And Iran didn't just defeat the United States of America. Iran defeated the United States of America in this most public way possible, in an incredibly swift manner. It was expeditious. It was fast. And America recognizes that, or at least our intelligence community recognizes that. Our military leadership recognizes that. They recognize that this would be dangerous from the start. And yet, Israel was able to push Trump into doing this. Perhaps with faulty intelligence, perhaps by leaning into his own personal ambitions, saying, this is going to be just like Venezuela. Perhaps they really greatly overemphasized how much Iran was trying to assassinate Donald Trump and goaded him into doing it, whatever, right? But it's very clear that his own guys, our generals at Central Command, and our military analysts and our intelligence analysts warned Trump of this imminent failure, this threat of waging war with Iran and what that could do to the global energy markets and what that could do to American force projection capabilities.
Yes, but Netanyahu managed to convince Trump that Iran would fold in 3 days. And all these threats about closing the Strait of Hormuz, it doesn't matter if the Iranian regime collapses in 3 days. So that's how they tricked him into war. And the successful Venezuela operation set the stage for Iran by making Trump feel invincible. What a disaster.
And now we are watching it. We're watching it unfold. So America's lost and Iran has won. What comes next is America recognizing that loss. And I think Trump does recognize it now. He wants to end this. He doesn't like how long this has taken. He went to China.
He knows that rising gas prices are going to kill him in the midterms. And he knows these gas prices are going to continue to go up as long as Strait of Hormuz is closed. He knows this. But the problem is any of the options before him, do nothing and just wait for the closure of Strait of Hormuz to completely wreck the global economy, bad. Escalating, oil infrastructure in the Gulf goes up in flames. Iran has already said that they attack everything, desalination plants, oil infrastructure, that they ripped internet cables up. It would just be absolutely devastating for the global economy if the war resumes. And that's right. Escalating a war that devastates the world economy right before the midterms, not a smart move. Probably get him impeached, too. He'd probably be impeached regardless, actually, if Democrats win. And the last option is surrender to Iran, which is what he's sort of trying to do now. And it's going to be so politically costly to him, I don't know if he can. Yeah, you have to understand, these people, let's take all Asmongold stewards, basically the majority of them, they still think U.S. won or is winning this Iran war. And like a week ago, when Asmongold reacted to Iran, he said, I think we should bomb them more. God, that's insane. That's insane. All oil infrastructure up in the Gulf, up in flames. Internet cables broken. Desalination plants across the Gulf bombed. And you have a humanitarian crisis, have to evacuate the entire Gulf, Persian Gulf. No, absolute disaster. But you have Asmongold saying we should bomb Iran. Anyway, Asmongold thinks we've won. If Trump surrenders to Iran, and it comes out with a deal that all commentators are saying is basically a U.S. surrender to Iran, what do you think Asmongold's going to think about this? We've got higher gas prices, we've wasted all this money, all this ammunition, and then we have to surrender to Iran? Oh my God. He's going to hate it. And Trump's polling right now is at record lows. Trump approval. Lowest ever recorded 2 days ago. And the people that still support him are the Asmongolds of the world and people that think we've won Iran. What do you think happens to these approval ratings if Trump surrenders to Iran? They tank even further to something we've never seen before. So I think Trump has to pretend to have won the war, continue pretending to have won the war. That's the only way that's how he survives politically the longest. He can maybe last another 2-3 months before reality catches up to him. But if he concedes to Iran or escalates, he's finished right now.
He had to make major concessions to the Chinese government already. I think it's $14 billion, if I'm not mistaken, of arms purchases that were supposed to be shipped over to Taiwan are no longer going. I mean, that's a huge concession that he gave to Xi Jinping. It's a huge deal.
About dollar collapse, I absolutely believe it's coming, but it won't be as fast as some people saying dollar could collapse overnight. No, there's too much inertia. There's too many places that are using the dollar currently. It's that places around the world need to de-dollarize. That needs to be part of the process before the dollar collapses. You need to, like places like Iraq deciding to have their own currency and get rid of all their dollars. Once that starts to happen, that'll be the slow process of the dollar collapse. But we don't have any indication of that happening anywhere yet. So you don't have to worry about gold going absolutely to the moon anytime really soon. It'll keep going up, but it's once you start to have de-dollarization, that's where you have gold going up to like 50,000 higher an ounce.
That is a recognition of American weakness. So there is definitely a recognition there. Trump recognizes it, and he wanted to pack this up. He wanted to end this, and yet, Israel still came in, it seems, in the last moment, and is trying to sully the deal. Just open with saying this stuff, says Curtis Mills, the executive director of American Conservative Magazine, the anti-war conservatives. And they are actually anti-war conservatives, for the record. They're certainly against this war. A major military achievement for Israel. The United States is not even perfunctorily referenced. Mark Dubowitz, one of the FDD guys, FDD, Foundation for Defending Democracy, for those of you who don't know, is an Israeli cutout, okay? Openly saying the pending deal looks bad. I hope final terms are far better than the leak suggests. That said, this remains a major military achievement for Israel. Iran's ballistic missile program, a severe strategic threat to Israel, has been significantly degraded and set back for years. Now, that's a lie, but it doesn't matter. Right?
It's a lie. They have 70% of their pre-war missiles still intact, and they're rebuilding it fast. 6 months is what estimates are to be fully back to where they were when the war started. They're already 1 month into that.
Right? That's just cope. But the very fact that an American foreign policy lobby is openly saying Israel's military objectives have been achieved is fucking awesome. You're an American, aren't you? One of your guys is currently sitting in the American negotiations team. And yet here you are saying the quiet part out loud, that this is a strategic victory for Israel, and that's all you care about. How interesting. Wait 1 second. Since the fall of the USSR and pan-Arabism, Iran easily is the greatest backer of Palestine and the greatest enemy of Israel. If Iran bent the knee to Israel like the Arab states, sanctions would be relieved tomorrow and they could breathe easier. Do you think Iran genuinely views itself as an anti-imperialist vanguard in the Middle East?
Wait. Since the fall of Iran has easily been the greatest backer of Palestine and the greatest... maybe. Yeah, outside enemy, probably. But greatest backer of Palestine... Yeah, I agree, actually.
Israel, like the Arab states, sanctions would be relieved tomorrow and they could breathe easier. Do you think Iran genuinely views itself as an anti-imperialist vanguard in the Middle East? Is that its motivation? Maybe not necessarily an anti-imperialist vanguard. I think there is that element to it. Yeah, I mean, that's what
It's common sense. You just see the people of Palestine just suffering without a country, being oppressed by Israel, new settlements being built every day. It doesn't matter. You don't need to be Iran to think that, this needs to end. You need to... People should have a right to vote, no matter where they are, and should be able to form their own government, decide their own fate. And Palestine is just not a situation that should be maintained. It should be fixed. You need a two-state solution, or or accept them into Israel, or whatever. They need to be able to vote.
Islamic Republic is. That's what the tradition was. Like the Iranian Revolution was that. It was like the inception of the Islamic Republic comes from an anti-imperialist revolution against Western superpower. So yeah, I think that is something that motivates them, certainly. But outside of that, I mean, they look at what's going on with the Gulf states and they don't like it. They don't want to be like that. So they want to maintain sovereignty. Iran is so primarily invested in sovereignty that at times they haven't even fucking gotten allegiances from countries that are opposed to the United States of America, to the degree that they easily could have.
Yeah, they made some mistakes there. Like the currency collapse, they caused the protests earlier this year. They could have prevented that by getting like a currency swap with China. China has ability to prop up Iran's currency and to prevent this free fall. And getting closer to China, maybe make some deals. They could have done that. They didn't. And Russia had offered to beef up Iran's air defenses, and they had turned that down. And I think now they're reevaluating that too.
Secured. I'm talking, of course, about the USSR, or even in the last decade with China. Right? They want their own sovereignty. They don't want to create like long-standing allegiances with other countries that would then cause them to be under the influence of another pole in the world. They want to maintain sovereignty above all else. Okay,
They had options.
They're a very proud nation. And things might change with the current IRGC.
Thing is, making alliances is something every country should do, even like Russia and China. Look at this latest visit by Putin to China, where they inked all these agreements. For a country to prosper, you have to have allies, and you have to make deals. So just think of never making deals, never having allies. Some people in Iran must recognize this because Iran is part of BRICS, but they should have done more. They would have been in a stronger position going into this war.
Leadership with allegiances to China, I don't know. I can't speak on that, but they have always wanted to have zero dependencies. They'll have some strategic partnerships with Russia and even with China, but ultimately they want very little dependencies. They want to be self-sufficient. Ironically enough, it is very Jusha in some ways. Ending the Hormuz crisis through diplomacy is a position the entire region and most of the world agree on, except for Israel. Even the UAE joined other Gulf states in pushing for this despite growing tensions over recent months. Probably wasn't a good idea for Netanyahu to publicly embarrass Abu Dhabi recently. All that said, the biggest challenge for Trump continues to be whether he can get Netanyahu under control or whether Netanyahu and his friends in D.C. will instead seek to control Trump. The time for Trump to show actual strength is now. By telling Netanyahu to shut up and shove it, most of the world would applaud him. Yeah, UAE is a joke country, yes, but it's still important. Even joke country thing to do. Hold on, I have to send this text message. 1 second. Did MBS move away from Israel? They do say pride comes before the fall. Sometimes I feel like these conflicts are individual nations destroying their own personal power to attack others. Sure. Our deal is the opposite of Obama's, but nobody has seen it or knows what it is. It hasn't even been negotiated. I don't even know if it's real. If I make a deal with Iran, it will be a good and proper one, not like the one made by Obama.
You see, he's still saying this stuff. But one thing he criticized Obama for was unfreezing of assets, of giving cash to... he says it in this tweet, not like the one made by Obama, which gave Iran massive amounts of cash. He's saying that in this tweet, like today or yesterday, he's still saying that, and yet his deal involves unfreezing of assets. How can he? It's insane. He's going to do, if this deal goes through, exactly what he criticizes Obama. He's going to unfreeze Iranian assets. That's part of the deal.
Which gave Iran massive amounts of cash and a clear and open path to a nuclear weapon. Our deal is the exact opposite, but nobody has seen it or knows what it is. It isn't even fully negotiated yet. So don't listen to the losers who are critical about something they know nothing about. Unlike those before me who should have solved this problem many years ago, I don't make bad deals. President DJT.
Yes. See, this is why I'm so skeptical. That I don't think he can surrender to Iran and make the deal that's necessary if he's still making tweets like that.
Incredible.
And actually... that's the reason why there's been reports that Iran has been told to ignore what Trump says in his tweets. They're just for his domestic audience, for the Asmongold of the world. So they could pretend to Asmongold that he won while actually surrendering. As much as I dislike Obama, Trump is making the same BS. Yeah. Not a fan of Obama either. Though he was better than Biden. And he could at least had a functioning brain.
Anyway, if you want to understand what's like spoiling the fucking deal, they say it's 95% done. Senior administration officials say the Iran deal is 95% done, but still several days away. 2 essential phases. 1, open the Strait of Hormuz to all commerce with zero threats or tolls. 2, dust for dollars. Iran must give up all nuclear dust in order to receive any dollars. At a minimum, gas prices will likely plummet in the coming days. Admin believes more moderate voices have taken over.
Okay, that won't happen. Even if this deal is inked, it won't happen. So a lot of oil production in the Gulf is shut in. That means they had to shut down the wells because they couldn't export. And it takes weeks, if not months, to get them back online. So yes, there's a lot of oil in tanks they can start taking out of the Gulf, but again, that takes like a month and a half to a month and a half to reach wherever it needs to go, and you still have the missing supply in that meantime. So, and you have reserves of governments around the world that have been depleted that need to be replenished. So you need to have a government like Japan that needs to restock its reserves, and that's oil taken off the market. So oil prices will stay. Gas prices will stay high, but they won't go higher. If there is a deal today, then I expect gas prices to roughly stay where they are now, go up a little bit going into June, and then that would be the high. However, if the Strait of Hormuz is closed another month, that'll be fun.
Taking power in Iran and want a deal. Radical elements in the IRGC are often using pro-Iran reporters and outlets to work to deal with inaccurate propaganda. It's ironic because that's what the Iranian side is saying. The Iranian side keeps consistently mentioning that, 1, they are united, and 2, that America has given major concessions to their demands, and that Donald Trump is just trying to save face and to not listen to him, and that even the American mediators have told the Iranian side not to listen to Donald Trump and his tweets and his statements. One of the biggest challenges with getting a deal done per senior admin is it often takes days for Iran's leaders to respond because they're in hiding and often communicating with the equivalent of carrier pigeons. It's humiliating. We haven't been able to open the Strait of Hormuz with the world's most powerful military, but it's actually them that are humiliated here somehow. They're so scared. That's what it is. Unbelievable cope. Incredible. Top advisor to Iran's supreme leader. U.S. is trapped with Hormuz. Top advisor to Iran Supreme Leader, U.S. is trapped with Hormuz and will never return to America or before. Mohsen Rezai, who commanded the RGC for 16 years, the longest tenure in organization's history, and currently serves as military advisor to Iran Supreme Leader Moshtaba Khamenei, told Tasnim News that Iran has secured a historic strategic victory against the United States as negotiations continue toward a deal.
Yeah, they're not going to give up control of the Strait of Hormuz. That's pipe dream. They'll reopen traffic. If U.S. lifts its blockade, they'll let ships through and collect a toll. And traffic can resume to nearly pre-war levels with their toll. That is possible, and that would help enormously with oil prices. But I don't think Trump is ready to negotiate that yet.
To end the war. For the first time since World War II, America's superpower status has collapsed. America after the Ramadan War will never return to the America it was before, and we have brought about America's decline in the Middle East. This is true, by the way. This is not just like propaganda. The U.S. military designed the recent battle to last in the most pessimistic
This war was an absolute disaster for America on so many levels.
scenario, 15 days, and deployed forces accordingly. After failing in the early days, they sought a unilateral ceasefire to rebuild their strength, but the Iran strategy prevented their escape, and the aggressors became trapped in their strategic snare in the Strait of Hormuz. If the war expands from the Persian Gulf and the Strait of Hormuz to the Sea of Oman, Bab el-Mandab, and the Indian Ocean, it will take on vast, uncontrollable dimensions. The enemies, understanding the end of this dark corridor, fear entering the war and have turned to the negotiating table. Iran has strong legal and security justifications for its sovereignty.
Yeah, I will say that is the one danger Iran faces, is that escalation can negate the Straits of Hormuz. The Straits of Hormuz is only so important because you have all this oil here trapped in the Gulf. The war escalates and all the oil infrastructure here gets destroyed. The Strait of Hormuz stops mattering. If they hit desalination plants across the Middle East and all this area gets evacuated, the Strait of Hormuz matters even less. So in what they've achieved, this incredibly powerful leverage of the Strait of Hormuz does stop mattering if, in the worst case scenario, where everything gets destroyed in terms of oil infrastructure. And then Iran is in a weakened position. So the United States can't put Iran in a bad position. All it has to do is sacrifice all its Gulf allies and the world economy, because both are going to be completely fucked if this happens. There'll be no oil coming out of here for 2-3 years. And the world economy tanks. It's terrible. But that would put Iran in a very bad situation, in that its leverage for the Strait of Hormuz is basically gone, because there's no oil to come out of this region. And that scenario, by the way, would be Israelis' dream. Because if you don't know, Israel is dreaming of a greater Israel, which is basically this river here and this river here. Huge parts, all of this, greater Israel. Yeah, about that. Big part of Saudi Arabia, Iraq, Syria. So having critically weakening Saudi Arabia, all these Gulf countries that might object to Israel expanding its borders, that'd be a big boon to Israel. And completely, yeah, all oil infrastructure here going up in flames, good for Israel, bad for everyone else.
Over the Strait of Hormuz, this management is not to block free trade, but to prevent insecurity and military campaigns. I suspect that it's currently a little bit more difficult for Iran to also transit their and ship out their weapons to Ansar Allah, which is part of the reason why the Ansar Allah have been far more restrained, because I assume, again, total speculation, but the reason why Ansar Allah has not shut off Bab el-Mandeb to the American forces is not because Iran is so kind and so restrained or whatever, but it's mostly because they want to keep their stockpiles ready for Iran to go up the escalation ladder.
Yeah, I agree.
Because as it stands currently, Iran can't easily ship weapons and missiles to...
So they can't keep the Red Sea closed for a long period of time with their current stockpiles. So if they're shooting them out rapidly and whatever. So they can close the Red Sea, but maybe not for months on end with their current stockpiles, and they can't be easily replenished. So they're waiting for the right time to close the Red Sea.
The Houthis. So the Houthis have stockpiles, but that's a card that they're not going to play until America forces their hand. And America must know this.
He's so much more informed than Asmongold on all this stuff in the Middle East. I mean, a lot of other issues I completely disagree with Hassan over. But Middle East, he's just more informed.
There's no way America doesn't know this, right? Like, that's part of the reason why they're not going back into straight conflict here. According to their source, the memorandum includes... Anyway, this is Ali Hasham describing what the issues are on the American side and what they are slow rolling, right? According to the source, the memorandum includes a Lebanon ceasefire framework, but Israel is reportedly uncomfortable with the arrangement and is pushing Washington to include language allowing it to carry out military operations in Lebanon under the justification of responding to any threat. Iran is rejecting that formulation and insisting on a sustainable and lasting ceasefire. Tehran has informed all mediators, including Pakistan, that it will not sign the memorandum unless all clauses are fully agreed and guaranteed. Pakistan reportedly suggested moving forward with agreed sections while postponing contentious points, but Iran rejected that approach, insisting the disputed clauses are fundamental and non-negotiable. The overall picture suggests Tehran increasingly views Washington as backing away from earlier understandings reached through mediators. Benjamin Netanyahu, Big Yahoo, also chimed in. I spoke last night with President real Donald Trump about the memorandum of understanding to reopen the Straits of Hormuz and the upcoming negotiations towards a final agreement with Iran's nuclear program. I expressed my deep appreciation to President Trump for his unwavering commitment to Israel's security, including during Operation Roaring Lion and Epic Fury.
Roaring Lion and Epic Fury.
When American and Israeli forces fought shoulder to shoulder against the Iranian threat, President Trump and I agreed that any final agreement with Iran must eliminate nuclear danger. That means dismantling... Oh, God, look at this. Yeah. President Trump also reaffirmed Israel's right to defend itself against threats at every front, including Lebanon. The partnership between us and our two countries has been proven on the battlefield and has never been stronger. My policy, like President Trump's, remains unchanged. Iran will not have any nuclear weapons. I am Tel Aviv unimpressed. Okay, Dennis Citrinowicz.
Honestly, I think Iran needs nuclear weapons at this point. If it really doesn't want to be attacked again, the best way is to get a nuclear weapon.
The Atlantic Council reports off of Phil Gordon's take, okay? Phil Gordon says the fact that so many proponents of the...
Personally, I think that, I'm not for the spread of nuclear weapons. I would completely understand Iran wanting one at this point.
Iran war are criticizing Trump's looming deal is less an indictment of the deal than it is of the war. It means they can't defend the results of the policy they advocated for so long, so are reduced to claiming that the victory would have been around the corner if only Trump had stayed the course, which only they seem to believe. Trump doesn't even...
Yeah, that'll be the argument. That is what they're going to hit Trump with. We were blockading them. The blockade, like another month, they would have caved. Trump tacoed out, chickened out, right before they would have surrendered. That is what the argument they'll hit him with if he capitulates to Iran.
Even believe that. They are right that the deal will leave the U.S. worse off than before the war, but fail to recognize, or at least refuse to admit, that the mistake was the war and not the deal.
Yes, that exactly is what will happen.
Danny also works off Atlantic Council, saying, it is also important to acknowledge that there are people whose entire careers depend on the continuation of the confrontation with Iran. Admitting that this strategy has failed would inevitably force a reckoning, not only with the collapse of a long-held policy concept, but also with the fact that their own professional future may suddenly become uncertain. Important to note.
That is absolutely true.
Is why many of them will continue arguing that just a little more pressure.
That's why I said there was inertia in the policy towards attacking Iran. Even if ultimately a lot of people could say, writing on the wall, that it was a disaster, they'd close Strait of Hormuz and everything that happened would happen. There are people whose entire careers has been to push for this war in Iran. And go after Syria first, go after Iraq first. Now it's Iran's time, we need to do this. We think, no thinking, because their entire career depends on continuing to push this. And a lot of them just assuming America is a superpower. Of course it will win against Iran. And that's how we got into this disaster. There is this inertia. That's how countries make suicidal decisions like bombing Iran's supreme leader.
Sure would have worked. That there's always one more idea to topple the regime. That Iran is supposedly on the verge of economic collapse. That its oil infrastructure is about to fail. That one more strike, one more round of sanctions, one more covert campaign will finally break the system. But these arguments avoid the central lesson that should already be obvious. There is no purely kinetic solution to the problem called Iran.
What's the community note?
Lesson that should already be obvious. There is no purely kinetic solution.
Oh, it's not a community note. It's just
to the problem called Iran. Everyone understands this reality, except for Israel. And Israel is doing everything it can with the unprecedented amount of access and influence it has with the Trump administration, with the Trump regime, to sully this deal that will allow the United States to exit this quagmire once and fucking for all, and then go back to basics to lick their fucking wounds, but they won't do it. Anyway, let's...
Yeah, because Israel does have a good outcome for Israel. Escalation that destroys the entire Middle East, all the oil here. Israel's the winner. It's gotten what it wanted. That would weaken Iran. That, together with all damage from the war, and it would put Israel in a hegemonic position regarding the Middle East, because all these Middle East nations, without their oil and with the destruction from the war, there'll be shadows of their former selves too, and Israel will at least be able to militarily impose its will. Of course, the entire world is fucked in this scenario, because you got 20% of the world's oil offline for 2-3 years, maybe longer, and you'll have to go back until 2008, I think, or 2011, in order to match that level of last time we used that much oil was 2011. The world economy would have to shrink back to that level. You're talking like a 30% contraction or something of the global economy. in order to enable Israel's vision.
Let's continue.
That Iran would continue to manage the strait, calling that its legal right.
Oh my God. How often do you do these, Hassan? Just get up and just play a video. I mean, how often do you need to go to the bathroom? You did it just like 30 minutes ago. What is this?
Seeking nuclear weapons. We're not seeking instability.
Prevent nuclear enriched uranium commitment on the day.
I'll let the president. We're going to go back.
Outcome of a read that any final agreement.
I mean, that is one reason people are against Hassan, beyond the politics things, is he does stuff like shock his dog and blatantly play other videos while he leaves the room. In some cases, he uploads reactions to YouTube that he's there to start the video, then he leaves, the entire video plays, and he comes back. There are videos like that on YouTube. That's why a lot of people dislike him. He does stuff like that.
With Iran must eliminate the nuclear danger, including
Champagne
removing
socialists.
nuclear material from its territory. President Trump also.
But this right here, this subject, Iran and Palestine, Iran. Palestine, there he has bias too in favor of Hamas. But Iran, I think it's his strongest subject, strongest topic to cover, where he's the most accurate.
Reaffirmed Israel's right.
When is Molly Crabapple coming out? I'm trying to get the bund in so they can do promo. Oh my God.
Well, I think internationally in general, he is aware of the United States being a bad actor in a lot of cases, like South America. He's talked about that. He is like the book Confessions of an Economic Hitman. What the United States does in order to provoke wars, privatize public infrastructure in like South America, like water, and giving that to a U.S. company. He knows the United States does stuff like that. He is at least aware on that angle. He knows the truth. And so on international relationships, he is often better than Asmongold. He is more aware of the United States' bad practices.
Later, okay, like around 7 p.m., 6:30 to 7 p.m. Chat Fox is
Domestically, I practically don't agree with anything he says.
talking about the Islamists and Marxists as we speak, killing myself. They're so dumb.
To defend itself against threats on every front, including Lebanon. Tehran, though, understood to be insisting that any deal with the US would also immediately end the fighting in Lebanon. Just one point among several on which, for all the talk of imminent agreement, key differences remain.
Well, joining me now, live from Houston, Texas, is Behnam Ben-Tablu, a senior director of the Iran program at the Foundation for Defense of Democracy. Thank you so much for...
What was that? I missed that. Hassan Piker is 2 weeks away from having a nuclear... Kaya, okay.
Senior director of the Iran program at the Foundation for Defense of Democracy. Thank you so much for...
God, that tasing his dog was such a mistake.
Joining us. Just what do you make of what has happened over the last 20...
It's awesome. They were like, hey, we just wanted to have an agent of Israel. That nonetheless...
He still buys... He doesn't believe in conspiracy. If he doesn't believe in conspiracy, then you can't believe that everything the media... You have to believe that the majority of the stuff that comes from mainstream media is true. That what the media says about Iran, Russia is mostly accurate. He has terrible opinion of game journalists, but his opinion of the media is still way too good. He doesn't understand how much the media lies on some topics.
Nonetheless works in the American security apparatus, but is genuinely, as I've described, with great detail, an agent of the Israeli security apparatus, an agent of the Israeli foreign policy apparatus. This is not an American citizen speaking for American foreign policy. This is a direct Israeli cutout, okay? Just remember that whenever we talk about Foundation for Defending Democracy.
4 hours. We've had Donald Trump saying that a deal was largely negotiated. Then a few hours ago, he's telling his diplomats not to rush. What's going on?
Well, it's a pleasure.
Asmund Chat's full of bad actor. I just say uninformed actors. Just people that average person that believes, that isn't a conspiracy theorist, that just believes what Fox News says. I used to be one of them. Most of us at one point, we actually believed most of what the media said. And so I can't criticize them too hard if I used to be one of them. They're just uninformed, most of Asmund Chat. And on some topics like Minnesota fraud and immigration, there were Pizzagate, Asmund Gold is waking up on. He just has a lot of other topics to go.
pleasure to be with you. Both of these things can be true at the same time, but the boundaries or the distance of the difference is actually considerably less than before. If you remember, the 50-50 between what Donald Trump used to say versus what would happen would be either a deal or war, and now it's either a deal soon or a deal later. So certainly things are moving in a direction that the president wants, which is some sort of a diplomatic resolution to this crisis. The question really is, what is the substance of that diplomatic resolution? Here in the States, they're calling...
Oh, I'm sure. I think one day, if it hasn't happened already, big streamers, they're going to start having AI bots in their chat designed just to influence them. I mean, it's what they did to the entertainment industry on Twitter. They used bots to convince them that some, racial equity was more popular than it actually was, and to make movies that no one wanted to see. That's one thing they gaslight the entertainment industry doing. I'm worried that at some point that's going to happen on Twitch, that you're going to have AI bots gaslight content creators into takes that aren't popular with real people. And because streamers do react to their chat. It does influence them. If their chat says one thing, they will slightly move their... if a lot of people in chat are saying one thing, they'll maybe that's true, and they slightly adjust their opinions. And I'm worried that at some point, I haven't seen it happen yet, but I don't follow big content creators, so I don't know. But I'm sure that's something they'll want to try at some point, and it would be extremely effective to manipulate popular opinion.
Calling it a memorandum of understanding.
And it will trick streamers into destroying their own career by catering to this imaginary audience that isn't real.
Not officially agreed to, and because of that, nail-biter-led process till we actually get this thing across the finish line. It reminds...
Yes, that is one of his bad takes about AI. And his bad take is, he's also one reason he thinks people against the AI is they're afraid of losing their jobs. And that's not the only reason. People against AI, because they've had bad experiences with it. Everyone has tried calling up customer support at some time in the last 10 years and got an AI voice answering thing that you have to, operator, give me a real person. Scream that into your phone because your stupid AI is trying to guide you through. And YouTube. If you've watched YouTube for any length of time, your favorite content creator has had some issue with YouTube. Has been a strike that shouldn't have been a strike. Demonetization that shouldn't have happened. Who's doing that? AI. The fact that YouTube moderation sucks, even right now, is proof that AI is not as good as people try to pretend. And yes, there are fun things that can come from that, like videos. Some AI videos are fun on YouTube, yes. But there's a lot of bad that comes with that AI, and that's why people don't like it. And also, it is destroying jobs, and people have a right to be angry about that too.
Me of a line from the 2015 Iran nuclear negotiations at a deal which the president then opposed. And the line or the mantra about those talks was nothing is agreed until everything is agreed. And I think we're quite literally living that out today in the headlines.
And as you say, it's being reported that there's not much detail at all. But what do you think are the sticking points that will still remain in these negotiations? The Strait, for example?
Well, there's the Strait, but there's also phasing over the Strait, whether the Iranians pull back and allow for a demining mission immediately, or a counter-mining and minesweeping mission immediately, and who is composed of that minesweeping mission? Is it just the U.S.? Is it the U.S.?
I'm sorry. I never thought I would see the day where Jon Favreau has fallen on such hardship and such hard times that he decided to join the Israeli think tank Foundation for Defending Democracy. I mean, this guy is a fantastic director, right? Like, he's great. He was in Marvel. I mean, he directed Marvel movies and was also an actor. How did you fall off so hard that you are now working for a Foundation for Defending Democracy? What the fuck?
And its international partners. These are some of the more minor or finer sticking points because it
doesn't look like him at all. This doesn't look like Jon Favreau. Are you serious? He made Chef, chatter. He looks like skinny Jon Favreau. Dude, literally. Okay, here. I rest my case.
Oh, seriously, you really doing this?
Barely Babes. Put glasses on him. It's the same guy. It looks like a mixture of him and John Kiriakou.
To be that both sides have agreed in principle, reportedly, to trade leverage for leverage in the Strait of Hormuz. The Iranians pulling back, the Americans pulling back the blockade, and then trying to buy time or create political space for 30 to 60 days of nuclear negotiations. The Americans are saying the Iranians are...
You're insane. I'm unsubscribing? Okay, please don't unsubscribe, especially right now. This is if there's one moment where you should subscribe to the Hassan broadcast, it's literally right now, okay? I'm definitely going to need it. So please do not unsubscribe.
Is he talking about the subpoena?
This is the one instance where
Hassan has been subpoenaed, and the only thing going through my mind is if he has to testify like in front of Congress or somewhere under oath, is someone is going to ask him about Kaya. Did you tase your dog? Did you shock your dog? And what will Hassan say under oath? That is what I think is the biggest risk to Hassan. It's not whatever they're investigating him for. It's that someone will ask him about Kaya. You know what? I think he'll plead the fifth. If he was smart, he won't answer that question. He'll just plead the fifth.
where I need more subscriptions, not less. Okay, I am. Anyway, the left is eating itself online, and it's so incredibly depressing. Is the solution just ignoring it and going outside? Yes, it always is. Luigi's fade. Thank you. By Moon, thank you for the 5 gifted. The People's Broadcasting Service is under attack by the federal government. Okay, please subscribe to the Piker Broadcasting Service, PBS, the People's Broadcasting Service.
Promised to give up the highly enriched uranium.
Hassan playing with his phone.
Between the various
to Cuba, where the U.S. recent deployment of an aircraft carrier in the Caribbean and indictment of Raul Castro are fueling fears that Washington may be preparing for possible military action against the island. In response, Havana has called the...
It's so crazy that they're like, our hands are in already one... Like, we're already in the swamp, deep in the cut with Iran. And we're trying to pack that up so we can hastily go over to Cuba. What the fuck's wrong with us, dude? Seriously. It doesn't make any sense. It's just such a strange thing to do. Like, there are a million problems in the United States of America, and this is what this admin is focused on. This is what this admin wants to advance. Cuba is even dumber than Venezuela, because at least with Venezuela, there's like, you know, the world's...
Oil. Yeah, this big... it has geopolitical impact to control that oil. Cuba, there's nothing of value there.
Largest known natural reserve of oil.
Exactly.
Right? So at least with Venezuela, there is like some kind of immediate material reason. You can even pair that up with what we're doing in the Gulf as a long-term project to make the rest of the world, including China, more dependent on U.S. oil shipments, so that America's leverage against China and every other world power trying to become a regional power or maybe a competitive superpower, like these growing peer adversary and near peer adversaries. America might want to have leverage over them, right? Either as a market competitor with Russia.
Russia is building new oil pipeline into China, and China's going to be less dependent on oil from the Gulf going forwards.
Or as a sole provider of oil with China. That's not to be, right? That could be in the cards in the future, and the actions in the Gulf, if it was successful, would play a role in that, right? However, the Cuba thing doesn't make any sense whatsoever. It's just like advancing...
Exactly. This is why I haven't been spending a lot of attention on Cuba, is because in the grand scheme of things, Cuba doesn't really matter. It's not going to affect... World War III is not going to start because of Cuba, so there's no big danger of escalation. There's nothing really of value in the island. It might be a political victory for Trump if he does something, but yeah, I don't care about Cuba. I mean, it's bad that people are suffering there because of blockade, but people are suffering in Iran and a lot of other places with this oil shock.
Boomer grievances paired up with Trump's investment into finding an easy W here. Okay.
Yes, Trump thinks he needs a W after this Iran. I can understand him going after Cuba for that reason.
Okay. He wants something to hold on to. He recognizes he lost in Iran and it was embarrassing. So he wants to regain the confidence, both within his base.
The thing is, Cuba can't deliver that. No one's going to take the United States seriously because it can defeat Cuba. This little heavily sanctioned island that's off its coast, right in its sphere of influence. It's the easiest target in the world for U.S. to do anything militarily for them. It's miles away from China or Russia or anyone that could potentially support them. It's not impressive to bully Cuba. It's not impressive at all for the United States to bully Cuba.
For those who even care about this kind of thing, and I think with Cuba, not many do. Not many know about it. And amongst those who do, there's a very tiny number of people, Miami Cubans specifically, that want this to happen. But outside of that, there isn't really a lot of appetite to fucking wage war against Cuba, right? There is no strategic purpose, even indecent strategic purpose, to pursuing Cuba militarily. If you wanted to liberalize the Cuban markets, there's a way to do that. It's through negotiations. I know for a fact that they are willing to do this because they have done this with Barack Obama in the past, ironically enough.
Yeah.
And Jason Hick...
We want to dominate Cuba, to install our puppets in it, for U.S. companies to go in and exploit whatever resources Cuba does have. we're not doing anything for the interest of the Cuban people. We wouldn't be starving them of oil if that was the case.
Hickel reports on this, and he's right, as always. Love Jason Hickel. Israel massacred 6 medics in Lebanon today. This was 2 days ago. But Western media didn't cover it because they're too busy trying to manufacture consent for an illegal U.S. invasion of Cuba. Also, Ben Rhodes.
If it wasn't trying to manufacture consent for an invasion of Cuba, it would have been something else. It's just one of those topics that Western media doesn't cover, is Israeli atrocities against Palestinians or Lebanon or the genocide of Christians in Syria. Those topics just don't get covered.
Has some choice words on Iran, but let's move on from that.
The only reason it's reaching more people now is the alternative media that's grown up. The free X commentators like you and Asmongold.
And let's get to Cuba.
Recent developments a pretext for a US invasion and has even circulated a family guide for protection against military aggression to its citizens. Earlier, I spoke to our Havana correspondent, Ed Augustine, who explained the tensions in Cuba at the moment amid increased US military pressure on the island. Take a listen.
It's kind of the oldest joke going.
Apparently, Russia's delivered one cargo ship of oil, a tanker of oil, to Cuba that's relieved their oil. I think that they should still have some of that left for maybe another half a month. No, probably another half a month. After that, they'll be right back into crisis mode. Cuba needs to be talking with Russia. Talking with the United States is just going to end badly. But Russia is going to have big demands too. At this time where everyone wants its oil, to send it to Cuba is a big ask. So they're going to have to strike a deal either with Russia or the U.S. I think the deal they'll get is better from the Russians, though.
When the Americans come, right? Because the government's been talking about it for literally 2 years.
Hey, it's Ed Augustine. That's my friend. He's a wonderful guy. One of the brave and resilient reporters that are stationed in Havana still. That does the
thing is, Hassan is friends with actual terrorists, like from Yemen and stuff. So being Hassan's friend is not necessarily a badge of honor.
Tireless and oftentimes thankless work of, working on the ground and getting the rest of the world to know what's up, know what's taking place in Havana, in Cuba.
And a lot of people here have traditionally seen it as a bit of a pretext, a bit of, we've heard that one before. What's changed in the last week or so is that a lot of the population, even people that don't really tune into politics too much, are now taking this seriously. The crucial inflection point was on Wednesday when the United States Department of Justice indicted Raul Castro. Raul Castro is still the most powerful political figure in the country.
And they indicted him for shooting down some planes that were violating Cuban airspace in order to locate, people trying to flee Cuba. And a country has a right to shoot down planes violating its airspace. Period. You shouldn't be able to indict a leader for shooting down a plane that's doing that. So I think what Castro was indicted for is nonsense.
Country, and the Cuban government points out that there was an indictment, or there were claims by the Department of Justice prior to the abduction of Nicolas Maduro that he was a narco-terrorist, and so it was, in their view, a pretext.
This is what's so crazy. Is like I tried to explain.
Yeah, Venezuela, as far as I knew, it is not the source of drugs. As proof of that, nothing has changed in terms of drugs by taking out Maduro. So the whole justification that operation was about, preventing flow of drugs into the United States, that's obviously not true because it's had zero impact, even after we take out Maduro, on drugs in America.
People like a country that can violate all norms and all international law and decide to set up a sham trial for Nicolas Maduro, the head of a sovereign state, right, can just as easily do this to its own citizens. And now we're seeing that.
It has, Alex Jones. He was never convicted by a jury or whatever. It's just one judge issued a summary judgment against him. You're guilty of defamation. Oh, you say you have evidence proving what you said was actually true? Doesn't matter. You're guilty. Pay $1 billion. Truth is not a defense against defamation. Not for you, Alex Jones.
A lot of Americans don't understand, where they're like, oh, who cares? Like, it's fucking, this guy's a tyrant, he's a dictator, he's cruel, blah, 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 all this shit. Like, none of that matters. If that was the case, then there's a way to advance that, okay? There's a way to file your grievances. There's a way to engage diplomatically. There's a way to do this kind of stuff. But America doesn't do that. America is a rogue state. So what happens when the architect of Western-backed international...
That is why it's so difficult for states dealing with the United States, like Iran and Russia, is like in Ukraine. Ukraine just recently bombed a dormitory of this college and killed like 16 young students. There's a ton of evidence that it was just a dormitory, no military target, whatever. So in Ukraine, in multiple ways, every time it struck this dormitory, people went in to try to clear the rubble. New wave come in and strike it again. 3 waves exactly. They do that. Western media, no coverage at all. Then Russia strikes back with their Oreshnik and hits Kiev with a lot of missiles. And the Western media, oh, look at Russia's escalating things. No, the one who escalated things was Ukraine by bombing a dormitory and killing 16 innocent people in a clear act of terrorism. But that doesn't get covered in the media. And that's what's so difficult for Russia. It's anything it does, media is going to spin in the worst light. It never covers the escalation that leads to its actions. And it lets the Western media paint Russia to be this ultimate bad guy that keeps doing these unprovoked attacks on Ukraine.
Rule-based order behaves like a rogue state. Well, we're living through it currently. Nah, we shouldn't have done that in the first place. No, I know. I'm not saying it was appropriate for this administration to do any of that. I'm just simply trying to explain to Americans who weren't paying attention or were paying attention and were like, well, the media told me Maduro's a bad guy, so isn't this a good thing overall? My warning to them was, if we're doing that to the head of a sovereign state, what makes you think that the administration won't do that to you? You're a regular person. I'm a regular person. You know, we're just regular American citizens. They can do that to a whole ass fucking sovereign leader, the head of a state.
That is a good point.
Military. They can easily do that to you, Chatter.
To be able to decapitate.
But the people judging Maduro should be the Venezuelan people, if anyone's going to judge them. It shouldn't be some kangaroo court in the United States.
The Venezuelan government, and we all see now that oil is effectively under U.S. control since then.
And now they're doing it to Cuba.
An interesting note to viewers, a few days after the president of Venezuela was snatched, the Department of Justice recognized.
It's a show for people like Asmongold. Like Asmongold bought it hook, line, and sinker about Venezuela, about... he bought even the narco stuff, despite we took out Maduro. No change in the amount of drugs coming into America. This entire point of this Venezuela supposedly was about fighting drug trafficking and taking out this evil drug trafficker, Maduro. And we take him out and the flow of drugs into the United States, zero effect. That just shows you Venezuela had nothing to do with drugs coming in the United States. You want to stop drugs from coming in the United States? Go after the cartels in Mexico.
That the drug organization that he was supposedly the kingpin of, the Cartel de los Soles, didn't even exist. They said it was more a culture.
Just hours after the U.S. Embassy issued the urgent security alert warning of a potential massive...
Oh, yeah, Russia's been pummeling.
Ukraine, though. Ukraine is one of those topics where Hassan is not as informed because he has a lot of left-wing viewers that are highly propagandized into being pro-Ukraine. And so he is I think, pro-Ukraine, which shows you how, on this topic, he's not good.
Russia's been deploying Oreshniks as well.
Severe attack. Russia launching one of the heaviest...
But at least he is aware of what's going on. Let's see if he mentions the dormitory that was the cause for this attack.
Overnight attacks from the air, sea and land using hundreds of missiles and drones, including the powerful hypersonic Oreshnik ballistic missile, which is capable of carrying nuclear warheads. Russian President Vladimir Putin claims this type of missile is impossible to intercept. Kyiv's mayor Vitaly Klitschko...
And this is example of what I said about Western reporting. They don't say the cause for this. What provoked Russia to doing this? The attack on the dormitory in Russia just yesterday. No mention of that at all.
I mean, that's not like a ridiculous... It's just reality. U.S. Embassy in Kyiv issues security alert. Russia launching heavy attack on Russia from air, sea, and land. On Russia. Damn. I wouldn't go that far. Good morning, America. Jesus Christ. ABC News already decided Ukraine is Russia. That's a bit crazy. Closer POV. Yeah, here. You want to see this? The fact that he's still up, the fact that he's still standing and is still filming is insane, by the way. Yeah, boy. He just ate that shit. Yeah. The... Lukyanivka district of Kyiv saw heavy damage with a shopping center office complex taking a direct missile hit.
Saying the capital came under heavy attack and at least 4 people were killed and more than 100 others injured across the country. That number is expected to rise. And this comes after Putin was threatening to retaliate after...
Just for context, recent events indicate Russian drone strikes hit a student dormitory in Russian-occupied city of Staroblitz, collapsing a 5-story building. And casualties, I think like 16 when I was looking till recently. And this, you see, 1 day ago, 7 hours ago, well, this just happened. This attack was what caused the retaliation, was the reason Russia used the Orishnik. Yet, reporting on the West, not going to mention that.
Accusing Ukraine of carrying out a deadly attack on a student dormitory.
The question is, will Hassan?
An occupied part of eastern Ukraine, killing 21 people. Ukraine denies hitting civilian infrastructure. Remember, it was just over a week ago Russia launched the largest sustained drone and missile attack since the war began, hitting energy, water, and transport infrastructure, as well as residential buildings. Putin had suggested the conflict was coming to an end after last night's attack. Russia's war is far from over. Rhiannon?
Far from over. Lama Hassan, thank you for that.
Yep, he doesn't mention the dormitory. And 18 kills in strike. That's 18 young people in a clearly non-military target. And it's not like they just struck it once. They struck it 3 times, preventing rescue workers from going in and rescuing anyone. Anyway, it's been a while since I've reacted to Hassan. That was interesting. This will be on YouTube. Like and subscribe. Come watch on Kick or Twitch. And I'll see you next video. Bye.